encountering and seeing online, including on some of the videos and posts that I made about it. So one moment, let me just set this up. Okay, one moment. All right. So there has been a lot of speculation going around and people just outright making things up to fit a certain narrative. One of the things I've been noticing is that they have been attacking the girl who has passed on. They've been attacking her character and blaming what happened on her because she was in an interracial relationship. And I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of the messages that give an example. I got a few comments earlier. They were filtered out talking about she got what she deserved. We're happy about it. And I'll read you one of them. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but this is one of the comments that was filtered out. They said, the soft life is a modern day twist of being high roller escorts to wealthy men. No, that's not what it means, but we'll get to that in just a moment. They said, so when you start tricking, you get tricked. And they said, for Ashlee, who met him in an adult strip club while she was working the pole, she wanted a dream free lifestyle. That's what she was advocating, to lure more women into filth from soft life to afterlife. All of that was just completely made up. And I'm going to go ahead and read a clip from an article that actually addresses some of the rumors and speculations that have been going on. And it says, Ashlee Jenae, born Ashley Robinson, built her platform around travel, fashion, and what she called a soft life. Coverage from Essence and BET describe her as a content creator, model, and aspiring actress. No reports mentioned nightlife work. Her public story was consistent long before her passing. The rumor lives almost entirely on Reddit, threads, and X posts. No club names, no old photos, no coworkers speaking up, no digital trail that usually follows dancers who promote their work online. Just repetition without evidence, which is how speculation starts to feel like fact. And then they were saying, even if she had been, that wouldn't excuse what potentially happened to her. So basically, you have a story where we don't know a lot about it. There's still investigation going on. We know very little information. And you have people, groups of people who have just completely went through and made up an entire narrative, made up an entire story, and start claiming it and promoting it and pushing it on the internet as if it's fact. And instead of taking this as a tragedy, such as, men need to do better, and I'm so sorry to hear what happened about that girl, or anything along those lines, they're finding a way to attack the woman. They're finding a way to blame the victim. But particularly, a lot of the outrage I've been seeing has been coming from men who identify as Black. Now, I'm saying that because it's the internet, but they basically are like, well, she got what she deserved, and that's what you get, and something along those lines. Now, I'm going to just speak for myself here. When it comes to dating, I do not care what color a person is. And they could say whatever they want about that because I don't care. I look for someone I'm attracted to, someone I have good chemistry with, a good connection with, someone who's really fun to be around, and a feeling of a soul connection or love, a feeling of connection that is almost unexplainable. That's what I look for. Whatever color that comes in is irrelevant to me. But the fact that interracial dating has been taken and been almost, you could say, weaponized to such a extreme standard when we're living in a country that we're living in, it makes it even worse. I believe love is love when it comes to connection, and I don't care what the person's color is. Now, in her case, she was dating a man who looks significantly older. That's the thing that I would be more concerned with because the more I looked at a couple of her videos, she looked like she was 19 or 20 years old. I actually did not check her age, but I do believe she was significantly younger. The man appears to be in his 40s, even all the way up to early 50s. That's something that I would be a little bit more concerned of. Anytime you have a woman who is less financially of means, according to reports, the man that Ashlee was with, Joe, had $45 million allegedly. They're driving around in private jets and they're going on exotic trips. I would be more concerned with the age gap and the amount of power, his money, his advanced age or mature age in comparison to her, what a difference that would give her, what a difference that would give him in terms of power and the ability to be able to maybe mold, shape her, or manipulate her. So that's what I would be looking at. Not his color so much. But this opens up so many more conversations. It opens up conversations around the fact that if you are a Black woman and you are living a pampered lifestyle by a wealthy man, it's looked at with scrutiny and it's looked at in a very negative way. I've talked about this for some time that for Black women, you're typically seen as a gold digger or all about his money or something along those lines if the person is very wealthy. But if it's any other ethnicity, it's met with, oh, that was a logical, practical dating choice. And that is because we are in a system where women of color have been systematically abused for so long that for some people, they see that almost as our natural station or something we need to be okay with. And being in the upper class, even if it was through merit, through hard work, such as becoming a doctor, a nurse, or whatever else, is met with a form of scrutiny. In terms of men, so I'm also a sociologist. I also graduated from one of the most, actually, at the time, the number one school in sociology. And I have 5 degrees related to behavioral science. So I do a lot. I do that. I do music. I do a bunch of other stuff. And we can break this down in terms of that. So for African American males, that particular group, compared to other men, are the least likely to get a college education. The least likely to get a college education compared to other ethnic groups, relatively speaking. So at the top, you have Asian, followed by Caucasian males, followed by Latino males, followed by Black males. Over the course of between the 1980s, early 1980s, and I can show you the statistical data and the surveys or reports for that if necessary. But over the 80s and the 90s, the gap between Black and Latino men was quite similar. It was a very small gap. But as time progressed, more and more Latino men started becoming educated, but Black men did not grow very much in terms of getting educated. However, with women, Black women did start growing at a normal rate, similar to the Latina women as well. So basically, people that were from lower socioeconomic status started getting more and more degrees with exception of Black men, and this really took place again through the late '80s, throughout the '90s, until modern times now. Now, what happened with that, why that is, there's a lot of debate on that, a lot of discussion on that, a lot of ways people are trying to remedy it. When I was in college, there were tons of outreach programs trying to get particularly Black males interested in college. I know for myself, when I was going to college, I was trying to encourage some of the men that I knew who were in that demographic to go to college and offering them support and help and all kinds of other stuff, and they did not want to do it. Okay. So, what ended up happening is you have now a group of women, Black women, who are significantly more educated than Black males. They're what you would call, some people would say, the counterpart. But as a result, this ended up creating a very tense situation where once you become educated, statistically speaking, although Black women have much more barriers, and are the lowest paid, typically a Black woman has to earn a bachelor's degree to be able to compete with a white male who only has a high school diploma and earn the same amount of to earn the same amount of money. But still, she is still economically better off with a bachelor's degree comparatively than a Black male without any degree. This created sort of an imbalance because, as you know, people that end up marrying oftentimes have a matched educational level. So, what happens when you have Black women who are far more educated than the males, and Black males who are falling behind in terms of education? Well, women tend to find that they have compatibility issues with the men. Okay. And some people may blame that on the women. They just need to do this, they just need to do that. But according to research, if you are highly educated and you are dating someone who has far less education, there will be compatibility issues in terms of what you know, information, etc., how you guys can communicate, and I'll continue on. This creates a situation where, yeah, you have women, a large group of Black women who have more education, maybe more money than Black males. But why this can be very disturbing is because instead of being like, okay, maybe I'll go to school, or okay, maybe I will find other ways of relating to the lady that I'm with, it creates a series of other obstacles. It creates a series of obstacles with connection. And what I have noticed is a lot of Black males tend to go through and then start attacking the Black woman who has been able to have these educational achievements. I had it happen to me. I saw a huge difference in how I was treated by certain people once I graduated, because they might start citing things from the Manosphere or from a news story that is not from a reputable source, where I actually am familiar with the actual studies, the actual statistics, and I can start noting that off. And there becomes a power struggle. There becomes a sense of them feeling challenged, or maybe even starting to question themselves. As a result, they end up projecting their feelings of insecurity onto the woman. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing such a huge divide racially between the Black man and the Black woman per se. I can go on about this for quite some time. We could probably turn this into a 2-hour discussion. But how this relates to Ashlee Jenae is, instead of having empathy and compassion and saying, that's terrible, or I hope that guy gets what he deserves, or whatever, I've noticed it's being put on the woman. I hope she gets what she got, what she deserved, or oh, she wanted that, blah, blah, blah. I also have to note that the soft life means different things to different people, but it does not mean what they're referring to. It doesn't mean that, in the earlier comment that I referenced. It means typically living a life of ease, living a life of not having to be so hard and so stressed out, but instead being able to relax, be able to have nice things and not have so much stress and pressure that typically comes with being a woman of color, particularly a Black woman. Black women have far more obstacles and adversity and struggles. This has been widely documented and studied due to what's called intersectionality, which basically means the patriarchy having to deal with issues as far as because of being a woman, such as lower pay or et cetera, not being maybe welcomed in certain industries, and also with the racism that comes with being Black. So, because of intersectionality, yes, you do have women who typically are going through a lot more things. Also, Black women, if they are economically disadvantaged, even if they're going to college, they have more obstacles while they're going to school and while they're trying to work their way up the ladder. As I referenced in an earlier statistic, Caucasian males with just a high school diploma earn the same as a Black woman with a bachelor's degree or higher. Typically, a Black woman would have to earn a master's degree in order to be able to basically get the same thing that an Asian male would get without even having a college degree, Asian male or a Caucasian male. And that's because the value of the worker and the status, the perceivable value of the worker is that a Caucasian male or that an Asian male is seen as offering more or more beneficial to the company. And this has to do with stigmatization. So, we could go on a long time about the sociology factor, but the more disturbing thing is with this Ashlee Jenae situation, by men treating it the way that they are, blaming the woman, attacking the woman for who she chose to date, etc., it's going to cause an even further divide. And these men are basically showcasing that they lack empathy. They're showcasing that they don't have the emotional skills to even be able to communicate properly with women, particularly with such a sensitive topic. As a result, this is going to cause even more of a divide, even less of a connection between people. So, if that's what they want, fine. I think that as far as her dating choice, again, he was a bit on the older side. It did seem a little bit imbalanced in terms of financially, him being the one that had all of the resources. But he was probably quite charming to her and, spoiled her and was offering her really nice things that, quite frankly, any woman would, I shouldn't say any woman, but many women who are younger or older might say, "Oh, that sounds great." Dating a guy who has tens of millions of dollars. He's not that bad looking. He's nice to me. He wants to take me to all these places. Yes, some women are gonna be very drawn to that, and that's totally understandable. So, what happened, we don't know, again, all of the details. There's a lot that's missing, a lot that's kind of like, "Hmm, okay." But what I can say is, if you're in here, please give this video a like. Thanks so much for hanging out. I will try to do more live streams. Let me just take a little break for just a moment to check something. Let me see something. Because I think oh, cool. Let me just get my little settings set up. Thank you for the like. I did not This is the first time I've gone horizontal live streaming in a long time, so I can't see all of my settings here. If you have tried to send a message, I cannot see the chat. So that's kind of interesting. But in general, a lot of the responses that I've been getting in terms of comments, a lot of them have been filtered out automatically. I posted about this topic with Ashlee Jenae on a few platforms, and it's been a mix of from the women of color, compassion, empathy, um, some taking lessons from it, and from the males, um, happy about it. and celebrating it, and I don't feel like it's right to celebrate people that have passed on, especially, if they've done nothing to you or something like that, celebrating people that have passed on just because, let's be honest, there is a lot of, jealousy, envy, and resentment from a lot of the men. She was, somebody who probably was out of their league, and they got very threatened because she went with a man who was Caucasian, because they felt like if she was with a man who was black, then she's still totally out of her even if she's still totally out of their league, they feel like they at least had some sort of a chance with her. But the fact that she was with a white man, and that's a whole nother debate and topic, how when a woman is black and expands her dating options by dating outside of her race, it tends to be met with a lot of adversarial remarks, comments from people within her own ethnic group, which is really quite interesting. Now, statistically, black women are the least likely out of any group of women to date outside of their race, but some do. But instead of seeing it as, oh, she met a guy that she liked and that's fine, it's seen as like she's trying to make a statement with it, or like she's saying something negative or derogatory to black men by doing it. We do know that the majority of black men who are quite rich in the public eye are with people who are non-black, and some women are upset by it, some women don't care. I personally could not care less. But when a black woman does it, I notice the response is a lot more vitriol. It's a lot more aggressive and um I don't know if I want to say almost violent, but it's very, very aggressive. And again, that has to do with deep-seated envy. It has to deal with a lot of projections, and this divide between black men and black women, can it be resolved? Yes, it can, but the men are going to have to step up in terms of learning how to become more emotionally intelligent and learning how to become more emotionally available. Things like getting into therapy, group therapy, and also things that will help them feel better about themselves, such as going to school, going to college. Don't be upset by a woman who has a bachelor's degree who maybe came from a lower economic background, who's now doing better, but instead go to school yourself and get a degree as a counselor, or any type of degree that you feel would be good for you, teaching or manufacturing, construction, whatever. This is what would cause a really good balance. So don't get angry at the women who are trying to grow and do better. Instead, do the same thing. And you'll notice that there's a far less rate, it's more, how do I put it? It's way less likely within the Asian community, for example, that there is going to be a divorce. And a lot of that is correlated to education. It's very common that an Asian man is highly educated, as a result, able to earn a better living. The woman is also educated. It not only helps ensure that they're in the upper class, but it also allows them to be more compatible with each other. So, yes, if you see a woman who is black and she has a degree in finance and she ends up marrying or dating a man who's Caucasian or Asian or Hispanic who also has a similar background educationally or higher, do not get upset with the woman. And it's really sad that I even have to say this, because to me it sounds very logical. If I was upset that somebody else had a degree, I would go and get one. I got a degree later on or my degrees later on in life. I didn't go right out of high school. I was working. I was working as a waitress mainly and doing other odd jobs, and there were people around me who were in my social circle, particularly Caucasian males, who they all had some sort of a bachelor's in this or in that, and I felt a little bit to be a little bit more personal, it did make me feel left out. I think that was kind of their intention, like, "Oh, I have this and you don't have that," and I knew I was definitely intelligent enough to get one, but I didn't have the means. I didn't know how to do it. I thought it was something that would be impossible. One day I actually started doing research, I started looking up online, and I found out about, um, that there is financial aid, and even without financial aid, I was determined to go to school. And so I signed up for a community college. I was terrified. I ended up doing really, really well. I ended up being the top student at that community college, the top 1% of 1% in the state of California, and I ended up getting into every single university I applied to. And that was awesome. And it was really good for me. I think education, if it's something that you feel bad because you don't have a degree, going and getting one can do really good things for you because it's a positive, productive thing to work on. Just kind of like going to the gym. You get to learn new things, you get to challenge yourself, and it's a good thing to do. So, if you are within that group and you are a black male who is upset because you see women that have these degrees that are very hard to get, go to a local community college, a local junior college, or even a university. Walk into their department where they talk to students. Even if you go to a university that you have to apply to, they will at least give you the guidebook, like, "Go to this college first, take these classes, and then we'll help you transfer in." You know, go down to a school, a reputable, what do you call it? Accredited school, regionally and nationally accredited school, and go and get your degree. Go and get a degree, go get a bachelor's, or an AA, um, or, even a master's degree, who knows? And you'll be a lot happier. And you'll also find that your options will probably or likely expand in terms of dating, and you might be able to relate to your partner better if she does have um a significant amount of education, right? But we know that these issues are a lot more deeply seated than what I'm mentioning right now. I'm just kind of giving the light overview, practical version of it. But in general, these problems are going to be very difficult to tackle, especially in the social climate that we're in right now. So, I'm going to go ahead and leave it here for today. And I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for liking the video. If you did send a comment, I was not able to see it because I'm not quite sure how to do some of this, yeah, these settings, because I have a different device that I'm using right now. So I'll talk to you later. I hope you have an awesome, great, amazing rest of the day. I am going to post this to where you can replay it later. Definitely leave a comment. If it's something disparaging, it's not going to be allowed. If it's something that's negative, if you're attacking the lady who passed on, or if you're attacking a group of people, that's not going to be something that's going to be tolerated. But if you'd like to add your own thoughts, go for it. I hope you have an awesome, amazing, cool, fun rest of the day. Talk to you later. Bye bye.